So, hey guys, Chauzu here. So yeah, in this video I'm only going to be talking about the Luffy Crew Final Tap. I will later do a proper analysis for Luffy Crew as a unit like I did with Roger and Whitebeard. But I felt like the topic of Luffy Crew's Final Tap is so big that I wanted it to be ironed out first, and then later I can go into the details about the actual unit. So yeah, these are the main things I'll cover in this video, like how does the Final Tap work, why this Final Tap is a big deal, how you can make use of it, why it stands out compared to other Final Tap abilities, and why it's probably worth maxing out this Final Tap ability, if you can. So yeah, let's jump right into it. I got 8 pictures, so this video will be quite long. First, we had a description, and I've just taken this from the subreddit Discord. And the condition is a joke. You just need to get to final stage. You don't need to do anything special. The effect maxed out is that you will add 1.2 times the total damage dealt from normal attacks from other characters on this turn on top of the final damage. So yeah, this is the first Final Tap ability where you don't rely on the damage you do yourself, you rely on the damage your teammates did. And this is the main reason why this is a big deal, one of a few others. So basically all the damage dealt by the crew will be added to Luffy Crew's final damage with a multiplier, and that multiplier depends on your Final Tap level. It goes from 0.25 times up to 1.2 times, so that's a pretty big difference. So yeah, basically if the crew did 10 million damage and the level 5 Luffy Crew himself does 3 million damage, the final damage will be 50 million, unless I misunderstood it. Like it might even add the 3 million into the calculation, but yeah, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. We learn these things as we go on. The main thing is you add an insane amount of extra damage to your final hit. And another big deal is the fact that this Final Tap ability is not stopped by full immunity, and it's not stopped by normal attack only. And if you're a veteran to the game, you know that the final two things are a very big deal. So yeah, why is Luffy Crew Final Tap a big deal? And yeah, to really put this into context, I want to go back to the basics. Like, a big deal in One Piece Treasure Cruise is to stack buffs, but there's only so many buffs you can stack. Like, you can't do multiple attack buffs, multiple ore boosts and such. You need to stack different kind of buffs, and there are only a finite number of them. These buffs are attack boost, ore boost, color affinity, conditional boost, increased damage taken, the various chain buffs, base stat boosts, and tap timing damage. And yeah, the thing is with Luffy Crew, they add basically a new type of buff that will effectively work together with all these other buffs. And this is basically a new way of dealing damage. It's a new type of buff. And those are the best kind, like you might realize when Kaido released, Vito Kaido with increased damage taken, suddenly a lot of teams started to pop up that suddenly did more damage than before. That's because we took the max damage from before and we added another 2 times multiplier to it. And like the more multipliers you get, the more crazy it gets. Like if you already do 1 billion damage, add a 2 times multiplier to that, boom, it's 2 billion damage. Like it just gets exponentially more damage. And yeah, basically to really try and summarize the level of this buff, it's pretty hard to explain since usually buffs apply to all units, but this time it's just for the first 5 units. So let's say that level 5 Final Tap Luffy Crew is a 2.2 times buff to the first 5 attacks. And it stacks with everything else. So yeah, that's a very big deal. But yeah, what does one more buff matter? And this might be where people get confused, because, like, yeah, sure, if you look before, we had the increased damage taken, you have the conditional buffs, you have base stats boost, you have all of that. But the thing is that we do have a lot of buffs, but Bandai does their best to prevent us from using all of these buffs. Like, they want you to not do too much damage in certain modes. They want to hold the damage back, so they introduce various ways of doing that. The main culprits here are full immunity and normal attacks only. I do say culprit here, but I think that these are very healthy aspects of the game. I think that both of these might be used a bit too much, but they're still important for varied content. And having like some failsafe in the game so it doesn't get out of hand. But yeah, basically there's not a lot of buffs in the game that can bypass full immunity and normal attacks only. So while it might look like there's a lot of buffs you can add, in reality, like, if the enemy has a full immunity, you don't have a lot of ways to bypass that. Normal attack only, same thing there, can't bypass that really. And this is why units like Ulti Page 1 and Final Tap Law has been so common in Kizuna. Like, Final Tap Law can add the increased damage taken through full immunity. That's 1.5 times extra damage you cannot get without Final Tap Law. Ulti Page 1 has a 2.25 times conditional that goes through full immunity, so same thing there. There are a few more full immunity bypassers you can have for conditional boosts, but they are also insanely valuable, and all of them sees a lot of use. But yeah, the thing here is that while we might have a harder time using buffs against full immunity and normal attacks only, like, suddenly we have a new buff here in the Final Tap Luffy Crew, and so not only does it bypass that, it also stacks with all these other rare buffs. So you can stack Luffy Crew with like Final Tap Law, with the more common buffs like attack boost, or boost, the various chain boosts. So yeah, it will be a big deal, especially in Kizuna's like and that. But also very cool in like normal content as well. And yeah, I think it's worth noting that you don't really lose out anything by running Final Tap Luffy Crew. And this is a bit of a too big of a generalization. There are aspects to keep in mind here, stuff like the enemy having interrupts against certain buffs, stuff like that. But still, the fact is that Luffy Crew Special gives you a 2 times attack boost, 2 times ore boost, 2 times color affinity, 0.8 chain boost, full board of rainbow orbs, and it goes through block orbs. That's an insane amount for one unit to do by themselves. And not only that, like, just by having Luffy Crew as one of 6 units, you cover all of that. But not only that, you do also get this unique new buff from Final Tap without doing anything. You just need to have them on the crew. You have to hit with them last. Like, it's so dumb, to be honest. Yeah, that's just crazy when you think about it. Like, some might think that the buffs are too low, and I'll probably talk about that in my analysis video, but in the end, it's more about stacking buffs than the number of the buffs. I'm sure that some of the Kizuna damage freaks will disagree with that, but it's really about like like one unit doing a lot of rolls. That's more important than optimizing damage numbers almost all of the time. Moving on. Yeah, I just thought I'd give an example to how you can think about using Luffy Crew Final Tap in practice. So keep in mind that Luffy Crew is strength or dex, but in this imaginary content we're going to be using Luffy Crew against an int boss. So in order to do more damage to the Imp boss, we'll have a full sub of only Psi units. So 4 Psi units, Luffy Crew captains. So if we get to the final stage, we have the Imp boss here. So to optimize damage here, what we do is we do all the buffs and such, remove the debuffs, all of that. Then when we attack, we first hit with one Luffy Crew, we hit with all the Psi units, and then finally we hit with the other Luffy Crew. And this is actually really beautiful. Like, one thing when using, say, captains against a color they aren't effective to, is that you always lose out on some damage. Like I always say, you can always use one unit that is not boosted or doesn't do that much damage, because someone has to start the chain, and when you haven't got the chain going, you don't really do damage. So it doesn't really matter who does the first hits. But every other hit can do a lot of damage. So usually if you run, say, two int captains against int bosses, you do have 2 units that don't really do that much damage. You might have 4 Psi subs that do a lot of damage, but the other 2 won't do a lot. And frankly, most of the time, that doesn't matter at all. But yeah, the cool thing here is that you really do get still the full effect. Like, it doesn't matter what the color is. Like, just hit with Luffy Crew, and they will still get like all of that attack into that final hit from the crew. And just multiply it by 1.2 times. It's just insane. And yeah, as said, like, you usually lose out by running teams like this, but you don't lose out anything here. And yeah, I wanted to mention the meme potential, because this is the main reason I'm pretty excited about this final tap. Because I don't really care about making meta teams, doing max damage Kizuna teams. I'm sure regulars here are aware of that. However, this is a unit that really can make dreams come true. Because, like, if you use weak units and such, it can be hard to cover everything to get enough damage. So having a unit like this that can add so much damage from the special and also from Final Tap, like, it really opens up a lot of new possibilities. Pretty similar to Toki, but Toki also has a lot of other value aspects. And I say Toki is more important to own overall. So it will be possible to make some really cool teams with some really weird captains. And I can't wait to try out what's feasible. Like, sure, captains can beat stuff, but we're talking about pretty poor captains beating content comfortably. I can't wait to try it out, really. And yeah, I thought I'd talk a bit more about this compared to other Final Taps. Because in other Final Taps, you rely on the unit itself doing damage. If you take, say, Final Tap Luffy, he is a quick unit. It's based on himself doing up maximum damage. So unless the opposing boss is strength, he's not going to do that much of a damage. But that's not the case here, since here it matters more what the team is, what subs you put in, what other units are in. And Luffy Crew just uses it to his advantage, and even if it's good if Luffy Crew 2 can hit with color affinity, it's not really a big deal in the end. But yeah, basically this means you aren't limited to certain content to make full use of this ability, and this also makes the unit a lot more valuable. So yeah, some conclusions. I think that this is the most impactful Final Tap ability so far, and I think it's by a wide margin as well. I don't think anything else comes close to this. You get practically an entirely new buff, and you don't need to do anything special at all. You just need to hit with Luffy last, and boom. It's like you hit with every sub one more time. Like, it feels crazy, but that's basically what it is. Like, you hit with 5 units, you hit Luffy, and Luffy just hits with all 5 again. And this has huge impact, even if Luffy Crew is sub or captain, doesn't matter. It will always be a big deal. Is it needed? No, that's not how this game works. It's Like, our captains are a bit too good for the content we get, so you don't need it. And you don't even need to pull for it. Like, it's a cool thing, but you will survive without it. But if you do pull for him, you do get him, like, sure, I think it's worth maxing it out. In the end, it's up to you. Like, to max it out, you need to pull at least one dupe. This depends if we get another Final Tap tablet on New Year. Personally, I aim to rainbow this Luffy Crew. Mainly so I can do some cool teams, make use of this ability. Both as a captain, but mainly as a sub in some obscure teams. But yeah, that's my analysis of Luffy Crew Final Tap. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.